welcome to Financial Fitness. I'm your host, Paul Gebhardt, with my buddies Jim and Dan Vatu. And do not adjust that television. They are father and son.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
We are. Thanks for having us.
It's a tandem, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Abbott and Costello, Lewis and Martin.
I mean, we like to say, yeah.
Sort of.
Guys, that dead space
I'm trying
there.
to think of
awkward dead
something
space.
current for Dan's demographic. I don't know anybody.
I'm like, sure, we can be like that.
That's awesome. Dead space.
Sure,
That was beautiful.
That sounds like people I should know.
Just now you know why I'm a talk show host. That's awesome. Try that when you talk to your kids that way.
Right.
They do listen with you all the time. You have the dog look.
Yeah, right. I get that a lot.
It's awesome. Guys, we have fun, right? You guys you're fun guys. That's what I love about it. And I think, I don't know, call me goofy, but serious things like money, well, guess what? They should be fun. If you're doing it right.
Right.
If you're doing it right, you should be laughing on a regular basis, in my opinion. Laughing to the bank, laughing to Hawaii, laughing wherever the heck you're going, right? Because you know one thing you ain't worried about? Money.
Right.
Yep, and I think that's really the point of financial planning and retirement planning, right, guys?
Yeah, I mean, the thing everybody's after is financial freedom, and we don't view that as everybody having, $8 million in the bank. We view that as you're not worried about where your money's coming from. You know where that is. You have that plan to know where your next, paycheck, quote unquote, is going to come from.
Peace of mind. Yeah, peace of mind. I know I have a plan. I know this is how it's working. I know I can trust the guys that are watching and reviewing it with me. And it's peace of mind. I can now go explore the next chapter of my life. I get to go do the cool things I've always wanted to do. That's the whole point.
Yeah, exactly right. I love that too, because, a big part of this is talking about some subject matter, and let's get into that, right? I mean, let's give folks a little bit. We promise we're not going to get too detailed. That comes in when you get to come in and make it personal to your individual plan. But we're going to talk about market volatility because I know that's on folks' minds out there. Look, we've all seen the issues in 2008. We had a little bit of a hiccup early last year, right? Overall, market in the last 10 years have fared pretty well for folks.
Oh, yeah.
But things could change, and they could change quickly, right?
Like that.
Yeah.
And they always do. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of something that we build into the plan because that can be one of the biggest stressors in somebody's mind is if the market drops. If you're working, you typically don't stress as much because you're like, oh yeah, the market dropped, but I'm going to go to work and it'll bounce back in a few years. So when we focus more on retirement planning, that becomes a much bigger issue, and you have to look at that a lot differently. Where if you don't have things positioned correctly and the market does take a big turn or a big dip, and you're also living on that money, that can snowball and that can really derail your retirement. So part of what we do is we help people analyze that and say, okay, we can have some that can still fluctuate the way it does in the market, but we need to have a plan to have most of that, a little safer and more secure so that doesn't totally derail our plan.
Good stuff. I like that. Anything to add over there, Paul?
Well, it's just funny when you brought up market volatility.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are people at home that what are they talking about? Yeah. Well, to me, market volatility, when the market goes down, that's when people aren't opening their statements on their 401k. It's like, I know something happened in the news and I wasn't paying attention, so I'm just not going to open those statements for a while.
That's funny right there.
But then when things are great, the market's cooperating, they're like, oh, look at how much money we made last month. That's market volatility, that up and down. And I always say, wouldn't it be great if the market would just cooperate with us? But guess what? It doesn't.
Yeah.
And the market's emotional just like we are as people. So things that shouldn't happen. And that can cause your market to be, or the markets to be volatile. So that's market volatility. It's really just the up and down of the market, the stock market, the bond market, all those things that your retirement savings are sitting in.
Yeah. So how important is it, you guys, then, to make sure that your entire retirement plan has a balance to help against things like market volatility? How important is that, really?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's kind of the staple of any good retirement plan is when you set it up, you can afford to watch that volatility and not lose any sleep at night, where the stuff that we have in the market, we've left that in there for a reason, and we can handle those dips, and we just don't worry about it because we know it'll bounce back. Meanwhile, we have assets set aside that can provide us with the income that we need to live the day-to-day lives and not have to worry about, oh my gosh, I can't go on this trip because I lost money in the market. It's we know where we're going to get the paycheck money, so to speak, so we have that money left in the market to ride those waves.
So what do you say to the folks out there, that maybe like that whole lottery approach, that whole get rich quick approach, you know. And I don't know. I always thought that was pretty scary when it comes to retirement money, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, there's people out there like that. Maybe those aren't the people for us. Maybe they are. Maybe they're only like that because that's the only idea they have or the only strategy they have. So for us, it's really just having a conversation to say, well, what are we doing? Where are things sitting, and what is the strategy you're using? And maybe that's their strategy. And, you know, it's not for us to judge.
No.
It's just for us to observe and say, well, maybe instead of that strategy, what if we had sort of a combination approach where maybe just a little piece of that is the lottery payoff. But if we can move some of these other pieces around, we're still going to have a successful retirement.
And the way we build things, it's not like a one size fits all. So if somebody does want that, you know, Las Vegas type portfolio where they're just rolling the dice on everything, we can build that for them. We will tell them the risks associated with that and how it can wind up. But if that's the life they want to live and that's how they want to spend their money, it's not our job to tell them how to spend their money and how to build this. We build this based on what they want to do with their life and their money, and we just show them how.
So young and so much wisdom. I like to
Well,
think
a
so.
lot of it came, you know.
You're saying he borrowed it?
Got some notes written right
Has he
here.
been looking over your shoulder again?
Scripted it all out for him.
This guy, plagiarism.
Unbelievable.
He's a plagiarist. Good stuff, buddy. Good stuff. All right. Look, we're going to shift gears a little bit here and come back around to something that's a little bit related to that. Inflation. Can we talk about inflation for a minute? Because I think folks, after what we've gone through recently, we're seeing, man, supply and demand has been challenging, right? And inflation seems to be really skyrocketing on everything. Our goods and services, the prices of things are going through the roof.
Yeah.
I know piece of plywood has gone quadruple.
Sure.
It's insane. Can people actually inflation guard their retirement? Is
Well,
it
of course.
possible?
So the idea is to look at how things are positioned. But so when I say to look at things, so basically the general conversation is you come in, we see where you sit with things, where your money is saved and in what type of accounts. But then we also have to have a conversation about, well, where are you spending money and what are you spending money on? So we can't really tell you have enough money that you're never going to run out if you don't know what you're spending now. So it's sometimes it's an uncomfortable conversation to have.
Sure.
And sometimes that doesn't happen right away with us, that it takes a period of meetings to just say, okay, I've gotten to know these guys, I trust them, and we want to have that conversation. But that's really a critical piece is to know, well, how much are you spending, and what are you spending it on? And that's where that inflation thing comes in. Is your spending still continuing to go up? Because what you have to do is count on inflation to continue to increase the cost of these things. So how do things look? Well, think of it. Think of what you were spending for, say, a carton of eggs 30 years ago, or what you spent on a car 30 years ago. Well, imagine if your retirement's 30 years later, what you're going to spend for a car. You're not going to spend what you're spending today. Well, maybe you are, but you're not getting much of a car.
Yeah. You know, it reminds me of something in my youth. My dad, it gets a little funny. He used to always talk about when the price of cars, you know, how they changed. And he would say, oh, that's more than my first house.
Right.
He'd say stuff like that. And I would look at him. You know how I looked at him at the time? I'm like, whoa, old timer, what's going on, buddy? I mean, you need to keep up with times. And you know what's hilarious about it, Jim? Here I am at 54.
Right. Shoes on the
I
other foot.
just did it the other day. I'm like, oh, man, I sound like my dad. That's brutal.
Well, it's funny, too, because real estate's one of those things that right now, wow, it's a surge. There's not enough inventory, and the prices are through the roof. And that's an interesting strategy because real estate's an asset class unto itself. So, you know, how does that fit into your portfolio and where? And what are we going to do? Maybe we have a mortgage, maybe we don't. You know, on the one hand, mortgage rates are low, but that inflation thing has a tendency to raise interest rates on mortgages. So how does that fit into the plan?
And with our plans, we kind of assume that it keeps going up. So, I mean, I think the one constant is that inflation is going to keep up. We hope that that's good when it does. So when we just build that in, we say, okay, you know, there are certain things that will keep up with inflation, certain things that won't, and how do we factor that into the overall plan?
Great. I understand, Dan, you guys have a wonderful offer for the viewer today. Would you share that with him?
Speaking of that plan, so we're going to formulate that for people. So for the first 10 callers, we're going to create that complimentary plan that basically takes everything they've got and weaves it together to show them this is what your assets will look like through your retirement years.
Good stuff. Hey, listen, guys, this is what it's about. Complimentary review all around you. All you have to do is take action, take charge. Your little business called your retirement plan. You're the CEO. Who you hire to work for you matters. 866-356-8889. We got to take a quick break, but we'll be right back after these messages.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have. By running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go? And who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Welcome back to Financial Fitness. I'm your host, Paul Gebhardt, with my buddies Dan and Jim Vatu
Yes.
of Vatu Financial Services.
Yes.
Guys, look, I love our shows, lots of reasons. One of which, of course, it's knowledge, but it's fun. You know what? It takes us a very intimate topic, a very touchy subject, right? And just says, hey, you know what? It's all right. But if we plan, if we do something, and we keep our eye on it, you probably are going to laugh more than you're going to be crying, that's for sure. And that's really what the goal is, right?
Right.
Make sure you're putting smiles on people's faces at the end of the day.
Right.
Agreed?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, good stuff.
Make a difference.
I wanted to ask you guys a question on Social Security, because I know a lot of folks want to know about Social Security. I understand it. There's so many different ways to take it. That confuses people, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So what is some of the keys to Social Security and how they relate to, say, inflation?
Can I hit the buzzer
Sure.
on that
Buzzer.
one?
Oh, game show. Here we go.
Boom.
Social Security is great, and there's a lot of problems with it, or I should say, it's very clunky in how it moves. But there are some great benefits to it as well. So we like to call it the raise you get from Uncle Sam. So it's a cost of living
Uncle
adjustment.
Sam gives us a raise?
Right. Yeah. Believe it or not, he's giving money back. But yeah, so he basically gives you a cost of living adjustment each year. Some years it's 0, but we use an average of about 2% in terms of a bump that you'll get in your Social Security check each year. So that keeps up with inflation, and most people are kind of concerned that you can't count on that. But that raise you get, that COLA, the cost of living adjustment, is tied to Medicare. So they can't increase the Medicare premiums without giving you the same increase in your Social Security check. So in a planning perspective, or from a planning perspective, that's hugely impactful. Since Social Security is the biggest asset that most retirees have, getting that bump in that check is hugely impactful as you get later in life.
That's good stuff. I like that one.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Speaking, let's talk. Can we talk a little bit more about Social Security?
Sure. It's one of the super fun things we do.
Hey, we're having a
Social Security parties.
What? Social Security party? I'll bring the prune juice.
Right.
Oh, what? No. Yeah. So seriously, Social Security. Okay. A lot of folks, they understand. And you go to the website, there's so many different ways you can take it, and there's these different formulas. And, I know neighbors talk, and people share information and knowledge. But how important is it for an individual out there to understand that when it comes to their Social Security, they need to sit down and find out personally how that fits the rest of their plan? Jim?
Oh, sure. That's critically important. For the typical retired American
these days, Social Security represents about 40% of their monthly pay.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
40%? Their monthly income.
Yeah.
So that's a huge piece for quite a few of us. Some more, some less, obviously. But having a strategy when we want to claim it, how we're going to get those benefits, is there a spouse involved, all those things complicate the situation. It's a very complex system. Started in the 30s. We're not going to get into all the details, but the idea behind it was planning that strategy, because it's such an important piece of your monthly income for so many of us in retirement age, that we really need to have a strategy on how to take it. And I know there's lots of jargon and lots of terms and all this stuff.
Yes.
We'll help you simplify all that. We take a look at where that fits in, but when you take your benefits has an impact on all these other things too. So I know that complicates things more for people. So now all of a sudden the fear factor's rising in people. It's like, oh, he's already getting me nervous and we haven't even sat down. That's the whole point, is to help get you organized. But it's up to the people at home to take that step, to at least make a call, to say, hey, can we have a conversation? Because that's really where this starts, is just a conversation to say, how should I do this? Here's what I was thinking of doing. And that's fine. But it's like, okay, well, here's an alternative you may want to consider. Maybe it makes sense, maybe it doesn't. That's up to them to decide that. But the idea is to at least look at the program and, okay, maybe instead of claiming the benefits at 62, it'd make more sense if I waited, because it's a much bigger check years later.
Anything to add to that, Dan?
I would just say exploring the options is typically the best way to go, just because most people, like we talked earlier, they'll claim it at 62. What they don't realize is they're taking a haircut from what they would be getting if they were to claim it later in life. So, I'm not saying not to claim it at 62. I'm just saying come in to talk to us to say, okay, here are the options, put everything on the table. If you still choose that one, great, but at least you know what you have in front of you.
Yes. And there's a dangerous thing out there. It's called Social Security shaming. If your next door neighbor, Harold, is saying, Frank, you should have took that at 62. I don't necessarily believe that. Right? Talk to somebody is what we're talking about, right?
Well, it's also funny because over the last few years, there's been a number of changes to the Social Security system. So maybe what your neighbor did 10 years ago was a much different set of rules he was following than what we're working with now. So you can't always listen to your neighbors unless you're a neighbor of ours.
Right.
And then boom, huh? How about that shameless plug there, right?
All of a sudden, the real estate values just went up in his neighborhood.
How about we slide that one in there?
Look out, that was pretty good. You taught him well. And I want to talk about that a little bit too. Because if we're talking about Social Security, there's probably young folks out there going, this doesn't even apply to me. But you know what? The honest part about all this, every bit of this applies to them, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it never hurts to have this knowledge, and I would never expect somebody, my age to remember this knowledge. But we talked earlier about just coming to somebody like us to get a thought partner, to get somebody that can kind of help you get organized. So, if you want to go over Social Security, you can. I have yet to do that with somebody my age, but if you wanted to, I'm sure there's somebody out there that
would. There's a planner right there.
You know what I'm saying? But like I said, a thought partner that can help you set things up and show you or explain to you how to get where you want to go.
And the reason I brought that up, the reason I even brought that with young people, we're talking about multiple income streams. Aren't we? That's what we're talking about. Social Security is one of them. You just said 40%.
Right.
I think it's a good idea to kind of get informed and know what those multiple income streams are. One of the biggest questions I ever get from folks is like, Paul, how do wealthy people get wealthy? Hey, man, let me just let you know. Multiple income streams. That's what they do. They don't usually do one thing. They move things around, and they usually have multiple levels of income coming in. Right? Talk about diversification.
Right.
Everybody talks about diversification in investing, and that's important. But boy, how about diversification in income? That's a cool concept.
I mean, especially because at the end of the day, retirement planning is income planning. So it's where are we getting our income? So if you're blessed enough to have multiple incomes, that makes our job a whole lot easier and a whole lot more fun. If you don't, that's okay. We can work with that. But it's important to know where that income is going to come from as you ride into retirement.
And isn't it true sometimes you actually help people find an income stream that they didn't realize they had?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the key. So retirement planning is a lot of basically monthly income planning. It's we have these different accounts from our last 10 jobs, and I've got a little piece here, a little piece here. How do we bundle this together to give you what you need on a monthly basis?
Love it.
Or find something, an account here and say, hey, if we start this now, we can get an extra 100,000, whatever it is, a month flowing in, another one of those income streams.
Wonderful point, Dan, and that's what I love it that you went up with that. Listen, would you do me a favor and remind everybody out there what you guys
Sure.
are offering today?
Yeah, so we're going to create that plan. We're going to find those income streams for people. They're going to bring their box of everything that they've got. We're going to organize that for them, and we're going to show them, okay, this is how this will look riding into retirement. Based on your risk preferences and things like that, and once we get to know them, we're going to put together a plan that'll show them their kind of retirement.
Love that. And again, it's complimentary, but there's only a few spots available. So make sure you put your name on one. Take action. Pick up the phone and call. Because the important thing is not what you know, it's what you don't know. Find out. 866-356-8889. We got to take a quick break. We're going to be right back after these messages.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to Financial Fitness, everybody. I'm your host, Paul Gephardt, and my good buddies here, Dan and Jim Vatu, which, of course, we're having a great time today.
Yep,
I hope
we are.
you're having a good time out there, too. And most importantly, learning something. And here's what I think the biggest key is just learn that it's going to be okay if you take action. Whether your plan's doing great or it's not doing great, take action. Find out. Second opinion. First time financial plan. Doesn't matter. All you got to do is make a call to start the changes in your life so that you're sure you're able to do what you want to do. Right, guys?
Absolutely.
This is my favorite part of the show. You know, we had fun. We like stumped the advisor, right?
Oh, boom.
Kaboom.
All right. The buzzer.
Yeah, good thing I'm not on the other side of this. It would be easy to stump me, that's for sure. I want to start off with Mr. Donald from Bay Village. Hello, Donald. Good to have you with us, my friend. He wants to know, can you have a 401k but also contribute to an IRA?
Got it.
I beat you.
All right. Well, so there are some things that'll go into that, but the general answer is yes, you can have both. So for a lot of people that may have not planned as well as they wanted to in their younger years, you can max out your 401k at work, and you can also contribute to an IRA. So there are limits with the 401k and what you're able to put away. There are also limits in the IRA in terms of what you can put away, but those are independent. So there's a big number that both of those can add up to, but I would say in general, yes, the answer is you can contribute to both an IRA and a 401k into your later years.
That's actually a really good question, Donald. And, you know, because to be honest, I didn't really realize that. I thought, you know, that's where it gets touchy, right? You got to be careful with how much qualified money, which you do, but you're saying you can have the 401k, but yet still get a retirement account.
You absolutely can. You could even do a Roth IRA. If you wanted to have a 401k and a Roth IRA, you can do that. So there are a lot of combinations that we can figure out, the tax advantages of doing all that kind of thing. That all weaves into the plan, and like I said, it's most advantageous for people that might have waited a little bit too long to start saving, so that government lets them catch up and put a little bit more away for their retirement.
Yeah. Well, Donald, I hope that helped you, buddy. But guess what? If you want more detailed information, the number's on the screen. Reach out and call them. I'll make it personal to you, buddy. All right. Second question, I have Wilma from Gates Mills. Hello, Wilma. How are you, dear?
Way out there.
What?
Way out there in Gates Mills.
Way out there. Is that out there, huh?
No. It's not out there.
Nah.
Hey, easy.
Other side of town.
Yeah.
All right. I got to add. Oh, this is a good one. Should investors be concerned with our government's 20+ trillion in debt?
The simple answer is yes, and just to let Wilma know, it's gone way beyond 20 trillion. We just are experience quite a bit of government spending. So the idea behind that is sort of a long-term tax question. So as the debt keeps increasing, we have to find ways to change the revenue stream. And how does the government get the revenue? It's taxes. So as we have more and more debt, what are we probably, this isn't this is just an opinion question. This isn't a political thing. As we have more and more debt, what do we have to look at? The possibility that taxes are going to go up. Maybe short term, maybe long term, nobody really knows. The current tax situation we're in, a lot of those provisions are going to change in 2025 if they don't change sooner. So taxes are going to change. So part of looking at retirement planning is to do tax planning, which I know is super fun sounding for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Who does not want to do tax planning?
Well, yeah.
But you have to do this. And the idea isn't tax preparation. It isn't coming in and we're going to do your 1040 that everybody has to do, and we all have to pay our fair share. Tax planning is to look at where your accounts are. They're in a 401k, they're in an IRA. Well, would it make sense to maybe try and be a little more tax efficient, to look at some alternatives so that when those long-term tax rates probably go up, we're positioned to handle that? Because what we're worried about is tax efficiency, is how do we make sure we pay our fair share, because we're all in this together.
Yeah.
So we have to pay our fair share, but we don't want to overpay.
Yes.
So how do we make sure we're as efficient as possible? So in answer to Wilma's question, yes, we should be worried about the debt, but we can boil it down to our own individual selves. Like, how is that going to affect us?
I think that's such a wonderful point to share with folks. It comes down to their individual need.
Right.
That's what you can control. That's what this is about, not having to rely on the government. Right?
Right.
To be able to put yourself in complete control. Right, guys?
How does it boil down to my own situation?
How does it boil down
Right.
to me?
And
Yeah.
how do we help? How can we help others?
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I love that one, to give. But you know what? Believe it or not, we're just about out of time again, fellas. But I
kidding.
really, truly had a wonderful time. You guys you
was
make me
fun.
laugh, which
Yeah.
that's good stuff. But we hope you're going to be laughing. We hope you're going to laugh all the rest of your days in retirement. With your toes buried in the sand, on a boat with your favorite fishing hat, whatever it is. How do you know? You start by picking up the phone and taking the control. It's complimentary. 866-356-8889. We want to thank you for being with us today, everybody. Be well and enjoy retirement.